Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host Nelson here on this Thursday afternoon, and today we are going to talk about the Celtics and Game 3, how the Celtics were able to beat the Mavericks when Dallas was at home. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Then in the second segment, we're going to talk about the Lakers and how they are in search of a new head coach since now their deal with Dan Hurley isn't going to work anymore because Dan Hurley has opted to stay with UConn. And we are also going to, in the third segment, look at the Celtics and their game plan a little bit more, talking about Game 3, how they were able to win that game in the end and sort of the strategy that they used, because I noticed something in that game that they were abusing Luka's defense. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that. And then in the fourth segment, we are going to talk about some more Cavs drama because there is a new report saying that the Cavs have no intention of trading any of their four main players, and Donovan Mitchell is expected to sign a max extension. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Then we also have a special fifth segment, so be sure to stay tuned for that as I reveal that at the end of the fourth segment. Before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody to please use the link in the description to tip and donate to get your comments recognized. Use the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is gsmcsportspodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, that's gsmcspodcast.net. And with that out of the way, we can go right ahead and talk about Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Now, this Game 3 was really weird, and like it had a bunch of twists and turns that I really wasn't expecting in this game. But the Celtics, they ended up winning 106-99. So Kristaps, even though he wasn't playing in this game, it didn't matter for the Celtics in the end as they were able to win. And it wasn't always that easy, however. I mean, the Mavericks, they started out really strong in the first quarter, and they were outscoring the Celtics pretty badly, but the Celtics were still able to continue to score, and they were able to match in scoring at the end of the first quarter, and they were tied up until like the half. Like they were really close. Like Dallas was only up by 1 point, and then Boston got up by a huge lead in the third quarter, and it seemed like Boston was just going to blow them out again at home. But then the Dallas Mavericks were able to rally, and it was only up until the very end where it was like at 4 minutes, I believe, in the fourth quarter, Luka Doncic ended up fouling out, and that ultimately the score was like 93-90, and the Mavericks, they were down by 3. So it was really a winnable game if Luka was able to stay in the game, and he was having a really good game as well. And I'll show the rest of the players and their really good stats. I mean, like a lot of players had a really good game. We have Jaylen Brown. He ended the game with 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. So overall, great performance from Jaylen Brown. And since this Game 3 performance, he has been considered now the favorite to win the Finals MVP. Ever since this performance, his odds to win it now just increased. So, and not only that, there was also, hold on just one second. There was also some other really good performances from the other players as well. And there's Luka Doncic, who ended the game with 27 points. Obviously, like he was a fantastic player. And then he ended the game with 6 rebounds as well and 6 assists. And unfortunately, he fouled out at the end of the fourth quarter, and that ended up being the deciding factor of the game. Also, Kyrie Irving, he ended up playing really well in this game, and he ended up scoring 35 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists. Not really good on the other stats, but overall, a really good game from Kyrie. Finally, he was able to put the ball in the basket, and there was also um, the Celtics as a whole, they didn't really play that good. It was really Jaylen Brown and oh, I completely forgot to do Jason Tatum. I completely forgot to do Jason. Hold on just 1 second. Let me just go ahead and reshare the um reshare the screen to show Jason Tatum stats. I completely forgot to do Jason Tatum. And this is arguably his best performance so far in the postseason. Hold on just 1 second. There we go. He ended the game with 31 points and 6 rebounds and 5 assists. And he shot the ball um, not particularly well from three, but 31 points is 31 points. So it's like, but Jaylen Brown, he ended the game with um, shooting 2 for 9 from three as well. So it's like they aren't really shooting that well from three, but overall from the field, they're playing really well as a team. And it's like, again, it's really difficult to beat a team that's just this well rounded overall. Despite the fact that Luca, he could have probably ended the game with better numbers if he didn't foul out, which was like the biggest problem for the Dallas Mavericks in this game. And Kyrie, he couldn't do it all alone in the end of the game, despite the fact that they were only down by 3 points. And Kyrie, he ended up playing 45 minutes and he shot 13 for 28 from the field and 4 for 6 from three. So remember how in the previous podcast I mentioned before how he was not able to hit a single 3 pointer in the first 2 games of the series. Well, he finally was able to hit 3 pointers, and it really like unfortunately it came at like a really bad time because Luca had to foul out. So it was like a really good performance for nothing for Kyrie. And Luca, he shot really poorly from three as well. He was 1 for 7, he still had 27 points. The rest of the team didn't really help him. PJ Washington, he ended the game with shooting 3 for 9 from the field, 13 points, and Daniel Gafford, he only ended the game with 6 points, and Derek Lively was 5 for 6 from the field and ended the game with 11 points. And let me just go ahead and look at the stats. Josh Green, he only ended with 3 points. And the rest of the team, Tim Hardaway Jr., he has not hit a single shot since like May, which is it's a crazy stat. And May 19th. He has not hit a single shot since May 19th. Like, that is horrible. And he's really not helping the team. Luka Doncic Kyrie finally decided to play well, but Luka's been the main reason why this team has been where it's at. And the fact that he fouled out late in the game just doesn't help his situation. So, where do excuse me, where do the oh, hold on, there's someone in the chat. As a Celtics fan, I kind of feel bad for Kyrie. Well, I'm very surprised for that. Christopher Shepard. Most of the Celtics fans, they cannot stand Kyrie. They love the fact that they're exacting their revenge, so to say, because, they just cannot stand the fact that Kyrie lied to them. But, I mean, he's... Oh, also, he still hasn't won a game between the Celtics. I believe it's been like 13 games now that he hasn't won in a row. And it was like, again, like it was back and forth. It was an early double digit lead from Dallas, and then it was erased by halftime. Kyrie showed up, but Tatum also showed up in this game. And there was Boston couldn't miss in the third quarter, but Dallas couldn't hit a single shot in the third quarter, and it looked like it was going to be over right then and there. But then Dallas went on a massive run, but it was cut short because then Luka Doncic fouled out, and that ultimately decided the game. So it looks like the Celtics are going to sweep the Dallas Mavericks in this series, or at the very least win the series, because there has never been a single team in the history of the NBA that has lost in any series when they were up 3-0, and most of those series end in a sweep. So I don't really expect the Celtics to be no different. So that's all I have for you guys in the first segment. So next we will go ahead and talk about the second segment, where we are looking at JJ Redick and the potential opportunity that he has to be the next coach for the Lakers. So I will be right back after the short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this second segment, we are going to be talking about the Lakers and their new coaching search, because Dan Hurley, he didn't work out, so now they have to find a new coach to fill in the coaching vacancy. Before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody to please use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker of every show segment. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. And with that out of the way, we can go right ahead and we can talk about the Lakers and their search for the new head coach. Now there are reports saying that, surprise, JJ Redick now has inside track to be the Lakers coach in the next few weeks, or in the next few months, however long it takes for him to sign. But he is supposed to be the favorite going into the offseason. The Lakers have pinpointed a new favorite according to this article in their head coaching search. And according to Woj, the JJ Redick will formally interview with the Lakers this weekend in Los Angeles. So, I mean, he's an option for the Lakers to being the new coach. Woj added that with a strong performance in the interview, Redick is expected to be the forefront of the team's quest for a new leader after Dan Hurley turned down the Lakers' $70 million offer to remain at UConn. So, the Lakers general manager Rob Pelinka, owner Jeannie Buss, and other senior decision makers reportedly are expected to partake in a day-long interview. So, it seems like JJ Redick is going to be the favorite after all, and it's a little bit weird because this is like the Lakers off season. Like, this is what they do every single off season. It's like they have these high expectations, then or they have these expectations that they hype up, then they get better expectations and then they trash the old expectations, and then when they don't get the better expectations, they hype up the old expectations again. So it's like it's a really weird back and forth that these coaching scenarios and this Lakers drama has been folding or unfolding in front of us, because it's like at first it was JJ, then it was Dan Hurley, then Dan Hurley said no, then it was James Borrego, and now it's JJ Redick. So it's like it's really difficult to keep track. It's almost as difficult as like the Cavs scenario. Well, it seems like again James Borrego is a favorite for the Cavs, but we'll talk about the Cavs a little bit later because it seems like they do want to run it back. But stay tuned if you want to hear about that segment. That's going to be the fourth segment. But aside from that, JJ Redick, I mean, him being the coach for the Lakers, or if he were to be the coach for the Lakers, I'm not entirely sure how that would work out. The reason why a lot of people like Dan Hurley is because of his experience as a coach, and JJ Redick doesn't really have that much experience. So it's like it would be really difficult to like really rely on someone who has zero experience as a head coach, more so than it would to rely on someone who has a pretty good experience as a head coach. Winning back-to-back NCAA championships is no joke. But I mean, he's basically, obviously, he's going to try to three-peat. I'm assuming that's obviously what he's going to be trying to do, because it's like, why wouldn't you try and do that? And if that does happen, then he would be cemented in history, which is definitely a better way to go out than being a coach for the Lakers. But aside from that, JJ Redick as the coach, I'm not entirely sure. Like, it's really the fact that he doesn't have that experience, because again, you don't just get coaching experience like that, especially when you're the coach of LeBron. I mean, we've seen Steve Nash, and he was a great player. Like, he was arguably he was a better player than JJ Redick in the NBA, and he was fired almost immediately, and everyone like thought he was good. Like, all of the Nets fans, they said, "Oh yeah, he would be great." But then after the first few seasons with him, they just decided, "Okay, he's really bad." So the fact that Steve Nash is a better player than JJ Redick, I mean, obviously there's no telling. I mean, maybe JJ Redick would be a better coach than he is a player, as opposed to Steve Nash being a better player than he is a coach, obviously. But there's no telling exactly like how good your coaching skills are going to be, no matter how good your NBA career was, or how how bad your NBA career was. But Steve Nash, I mean, he was again, very great player, and was the main coordinator of one of the fastest offenses in NBA history under Mike D'Antoni, the 7 seconds or less. And they were just, they were one of the best offenses in the NBA at the time, and he was the commander of that offense. He won 2 MVPs, and obviously, winning 2 MVPs, you have to have a really good basketball mind, and you have to have a really good set of skills to be able to get those kind of accolades. Now, despite getting all those accolades, it didn't really translate into his coaching career, despite the fact that he had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. Mainly Kevin Durant and Kyrie. Now, I'm not going to say that Kyrie was helping scenarios and helping the team with his decision. I'm not going to really get into that. But not to mention James Harden getting traded, or deciding to get traded, and then the rest of the team deciding to get traded. But aside from that, he had a great team, and it still ended up failing. Now, one could argue that it was the injuries, but despite the fact that he had Kyrie and Kevin Durant, I thought he did a really bad job in coaching in the NBA playoffs when they went up against the Celtics, when they had just Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Now, they played really good against them in the first time when they had James Harden. Like, they had a historic first round, and they scored so many points together, and it was just ridiculous how many points they were scoring, and they put up ridiculous numbers offensively. And despite that, I mean, that first series, it seemed like that would be the norm. But then in the next round, or the next year when they played the Celtics again, they ended up losing. And they ended up getting swept. So it was not a really good coaching job from Steve Nash, because he sort of let Kevin Durant and Kyrie shoot them out the game. And he didn't really call timeouts when they needed to. And again, it doesn't. So I don't really feel confident with JJ Redick being the coach. Not as confident as I would if it was Dan Hurley, because, Dan Hurley, he was going to be the favorite. He should have been the favorite. And I really, the Lakers, they really messed up with this. They should have made him the most paid coach in the NBA. Like, if they really wanted to get him in the NBA, if they really wanted to get him with that coaching position, they absolutely needed to make him the most paid coach in the NBA in order to twist his hand, because that's like the best offer that you're going to get in the NBA. And that's maybe they didn't have the money for it, but I feel like making him only the sixth most paid is a little bit underwhelming. But that's just me. So with that, we are out of time for this second segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the third segment, where I will talk about the Celtics and their game plan to beating the Dallas Mavericks in this series. So I will be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Now, in this third segment, we are going to be looking at the Celtics and their little game plan that they have to sort of stop the Dallas Mavericks and beat the Dallas Mavericks in these last few games. I noticed them doing this a lot in their previous few games, and it seems like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown playing well only just helps their cause in winning the game. And it's really good that Jason Tatum ended up showing up in this game, as well as Jaylen Brown showing up in this game. They desperately needed that. And the big thing was stopping Luka Doncic, and it's really difficult to stop him offensively. I mean, in the first two games that he played, he was ridiculous. He had 30 points in all of them, and the only reason why he didn't have 30 points in this one is is because he ended up fouling out. So if he doesn't foul out, then there's a chance that he ends up getting more points, more rebounds, and more assists, and ultimately wins the game in the end, because the game was only a 1 point lead from, like, the Celtics. They were only, actually no, the Celtics were only leading by 3 points, excuse me, and then Luka Doncic ended up fouling out. So it was a little bit unfortunate for Luka Doncic and the Mavericks, but the biggest thing that is really new that I've never seen before is this new stat that they're putting up in some of these shows on TV that are like that are some of these NBA shows. It's called blow by percentage. Now, I've never heard of this stat before. Like, this is new. And obviously, like, I mean, blow by percentage is what it is. It's the amount of times you let a ball handler go past you and go to the rim. And it's like, for the Celtics, the percentage in the playoffs is 67.7%. So that's the amount of times that's the percentage that Luka gets blown by in these postseason games between the Celtics in 2024. This is apparently the highest blow by percentage allowed on drives in a series. And, like, again, this is a crazy stat because I've never heard of this stat before. And not only that, Luka Doncic in 2020 again is on the list with 65.2% against the Clippers. And then he's on the list again, 59.0% against the Thunder. Now, I don't know if this is okay, this is apparently within the last 10 years. This is a crazy stat if this is true. And I mean, again, this is a ridiculous stat, and I believe the first one that it is the highest in NBA history, because in these few games, Luka has been a liability on the defensive side of the ball. He spends more time complaining than he does defending, I feel like, in this series. Like, in fact, in a post-game interview, he was even complaining that the refs were the reason why they lost. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, how are you going to complain about the refs? Like, it's every time. And it seems like he's a bigger complainer than LeBron. Like, he complains to the refs more than anyone I've ever seen in this postseason, in this finals, in any sort of basketball game. He complains a lot. It is ridiculous to me, because it's like, how are you, like, he is so good, but the fact that he complains so much is just like, it makes it a little bit annoying. And I'm a Luka fan. Like, I really like Luka. I think he's a fantastic player, and I really like watching him play, but seeing him complain is one of the things that I really do not like about his game. Like, I really could care less whether he complains. I just don't want to see him do that. I just cannot. It is gross. I do not like it at all. And it really, like, it sort of ruins the game for me, because it's like, a lot of these players, they seem to enjoy complaining to the, like they really complain to the ref a lot, and it really distracts the game. It really distracts from the game, especially in the finals, when it's like, you're not really expected to get all of these calls, and you're not really expected, like, you're expected to be a little bit more physical in the game. And with being, with the fact that there's more physicality, you also have to you're also not going to get that many foul calls in these games, and you have to expect that. But it's just he keeps complaining and he keeps thinking that he should get more foul calls, but it's like you can't really expect that in the postseason. It's not going to happen. But that's like really like their game plan going, and their biggest game plan is just attacking the fact that Luka Doncic doesn't really play that much defense when he's in any sort of game in these postseasons. And it's like they're abusing the matchup that it's like, okay, it's Luka, go ahead and blow by him. And the fact that those Celtics can space the floor out a little bit better than most of the teams that they went up against only makes it better. And it's just, oh, okay, hold on, let's we have someone in the chat, Eric Rodriguez, I believe that's Biggie. Who's the worst complainer in sports? Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, LeBron, or Luka Doncic? That is a very interesting question. And so I really, like, I don't know. I mean, like, first off, Patrick Mahomes and Luka, they're like relatively young, and Brady and LeBron, they're like really old, and they've played for so long. So it's like you can pick more moments where Brady and LeBron have complained than you can about Mahomes and Luka. So it's like it's really difficult to, like, pinpoint exactly like who complains more. But I think it's Tom. Like my heart wants to say Tom, and I genuinely it's Tom. But I mean, there's also LeBron is like second place. I'll give LeBron that, because it's like LeBron definitely complains a lot. He's been complaining a lot. Like, he's been complaining more recently than he has in like previous years. But like, again, he is known for his complaining. But not just to the refs, but also to like other players and other J.R. Smith. That's basically who I'm thinking about. But I mean, Luka's basically, if he continues to do this as the years progress, then he's going to be a very, very close second to LeBron. And I wouldn't be surprised if he just even exceeds LeBron, because he's done nothing but complain. And it's like, even after this postseason, he's been in the post-game conference, he's been complaining. And I'm just like, I've never seen anyone complain about the refs. After, what was crazier is that he even gave, like, before in a press conference, he gave a really noble response where it was like, the game was on me when they lost in game 2. And here in this game, he's saying that it was the refs. So he went from being humble in the last game to complaining in this game. And it's just like, are you going to pick a side? Like, what's happening? So with that, that's basically all I have for this. That's all I have for this third segment. So now we will go ahead and go into the fourth segment, where I talk about some more Cavs drama, about how the Cavs, they're expected to sign Donovan Mitchell on a max extension. So I will be right back after the short break. Be sure to stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to be talking about some more Cavs drama, because there is now some reports saying that Donovan Mitchell is expected to sign an extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers this offseason. According to this article by Ashish Mathur, according to multiple NBA reports, he's expected to sign a max extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Mitchell can sign a 4-year, $208 million extension this offseason. He's under contract for next season and has a $37 million player option for 2025 and 2026. And obviously, this is some with Donovan Mitchell returning to the Cavs. This gives them, the hope that they can continue to make some playoff runs, and maybe they can go deeper into the postseason if things line up properly. So a league-wide expectation only grows that Mitchell will sign a contract extension with the club that acquired him from Utah back in September 2022. NBA insider Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports reported. Mitchell, he averaged 26 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists this season while shooting 46% from the field, 36% from 3, and 86% from the free throw line. And they made the playoffs. They beat the Orlando Magic in the first round in 7 games, but they lost to the Celtics in the second round in 5, mainly because Donovan Mitchell did not play in about half of the series. Several rival executives believe Donovan Mitchell will sign an extension with Cleveland. NBA insider Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype reported. The belief is Mitchell, who just completed his 7th season, will sign a max extension for at least the next 3 seasons, which would put him at 10 years of service and eligible for more money on his next contract due to CBA rules. So those are the details going into this. And again, when we were talking about Donovan Mitchell signing his extension with the Cavs, there were also talks about Darius Garland going to request a trade from the Cavs after he signs the extension. So whatever that means and whatever that entails, we'll see in the offseason. But according to some other reports that have recently been put out there, this was put out there on Wednesday, June 12th, and at 5 p.m., the Cavs will have at least 3 candidates in town, and they will interview the new coach, obviously. And there was also the expectation that the tandem of Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, and Evan Mobley will run it back, which is a really crazy approach, considering how, Darius Garland, he opted to want to request a trade as opposed to teaming up with Donovan Mitchell again. And this could be beneficial for the Cavs because it's like getting a new coach might be a really good, and according to the other reports from Cleveland, it was said that the locker room didn't really like the coach that they previously had. So maybe if they had a new coach, it would change up things in the locker room. They would have some more confidence, and maybe the Cavs could go far. But if the Celtics remain as dominant as they are and as they've been, it would be really difficult to be successful in the Eastern Conference, assuming it's like they have to be lucky and things have to line up for them. But Cleveland, they set forth a goal of replacing former head coach J.B. Bickerstaff by the start of the NBA draft, prioritizing offensive innovation and creativity. Sources said for a Cavs roster that is still expected at this juncture to feature Donovan, Darius, and the rest of the 2, Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. So that's what the article is saying in this from Yahoo Sports. Jake Fisher, that's what he's saying. Despite a wealth of interest in both Garland and Allen on the trade market, Cleveland is not expected to entertain trade offers for any member of its core four at this time, sources said, while a league-wide expectation only grows that Mitchell will sign a contract extension with the club that acquired him from Utah back in September 2022. So that's basically the report that we have on what's going on with Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs and what's going on with all their situations. And I mean, this team, it's we have to give them the benefit of the doubt because they weren't healthy in the postseason. So we have no idea exactly how far they'll go. And if Darius Garland develops and he decides to continue to play under with Donovan Mitchell and continue to be that second option that they need, maybe even be the third option that they need if Evan Mobley develops, then maybe, the team can go farther than a lot of people expect. Because again, they were injured for most of the postseason. Jarrett Allen didn't play. Unfortunately, it's been really bad. So I can't believe he didn't play that game. And not only that, they also didn't have Donovan Mitchell. So relying just on Darius Garland and Evan Mobley for the final game of that series it's not ideal. And not only that, it also improved the Celtics record in away games, which they still haven't lost, by the way. And it's also losing to the team that is possibly going to win the finals isn't really the worst thing in the world. So I guess I could sort of understand why they wouldn't want to trade anyone, despite the fact that they could get some really, really good players on the trade market if they want to trade any of their players. So it's you pick your poison, and it seems like they really want to run it back with the same team. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of this move. If you guys think they should just they shouldn't do this, or if you guys think that if you think this will work, if you think this won't work. I think it'll be interesting. I'm not going to say whether it's going to work or whether it's not going to work. I'm just going to leave that up to you guys because I don't know. It's really tough. But aside from that, they really their first focus should probably be looking for a coach and deciding because the coach also could have a say in the lineup and what he wants to develop, what he wants to focus on, and that could also alter the front office and their decision on who they want to maybe trade, because maybe the coach has a say in certain things. There have been certain situations where it's the coach and the GM, they have sort of the same vision of the players that they want to get in the off season and players that they want to pursue in free agency, and they obviously have these talks deciding who they want to pursue and who they could try to get, and it ends up working out for the better most of the time when you have a good relationship with when a coach is between the GM. If you have a good relationship between the two, then you can make a really good roster. And hold on, let me just see. So Eric in the chat said Cavs run it back, signs Klay Thompson. Oh my gosh, if that does happen, that would be a crazy twist. Not a bad idea. I should be a Cavs GM, he said. If they could, the problem is they're going to sign Donovan to a really huge contract. They're going to sign him to a max extension, and Klay Thompson is probably going to be looking for a lot of money that the Golden State Warriors are probably going to give to them. So I'm not entirely sure if Cleveland's going to be able to provide him that much money in the like, in the future, but who knows? Maybe he will, maybe he won't, maybe he will sign with the Cavs, but we'll see how it goes in free agency. I just don't think I think other teams are going to offer him a little bit more money than the Cavs would, especially after using all of that money and on Donovan Mitchell, because, like, again, 208 million is a lot of money, and especially, like, for 4 years. And then they're going to have to pay Garland, then they're going to have to pay Jared Allen, then they're going to have to pay all those other players, especially even if Evan Mobley develops, they're going to have to pay him as well. And it's like, it seems like that's going to be the trajectory of Evan Mobley based off of his closeout game. Um, Eric Rodriguez in the chat said, Cavs draft little LeBron. That's, I don't think, it doesn't seem like the Cavs are interested in drafting Bronny James in the draft. So it seems like it's going to be either the Phoenix Suns or the Lakers. Those were the teams that he held workouts with, and it seems like, the Suns, they do have the 22nd pick, and the Lakers, they have a little bit of a like a much like lower pick in the draft that they could probably use on Bronny, because it doesn't seem like Bronny is going to be a high projected pick. So he might still be available for the Lakers to go ahead and grab if, the Lakers want to go ahead and grab him. So we will see what they do, but it does seem like it's going to be either the Lakers or the Suns. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, if you think he's going to be on the Lakers or if he's going to be on the Suns. But aside from that, that's basically all that we have on the Cavs drama in this offseason so far. So now we will go ahead and go into the special fifth segment, where we talk a little bit about some of the NBA teams that have gotten swept in the NBA Finals, because that seems like that is the trajectory of this finals so far and what is going to happen. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the fifth segment right after this short break. So be sure to stay tuned. And we are back with the fifth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fifth segment, we are going to be talking about some of the teams that are actually, all of the teams that have gotten swept in the NBA Finals, because that seems to be what the story of these finals is going to be. The Celtics, they're up 3-0 in the series. They haven't lost a single away game, and the next game in Dallas is going to happen tomorrow. So it does seem like it is going to be a sweep, but we'll just go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the teams that have have gotten swept in the NBA Finals. So the most recent team that has gotten swept is, unfortunately, the 2018 Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron James, the greatest basketball player ever. He lost to the 2018 Golden State Warriors. They had a ridiculous squad: Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. Obviously, these guys, they were just unbeatable. They were the most feared team in most recent NBA history and arguably the best offense in NBA history. I mean, they added a player who was widely regarded as as the second best small forward in the NBA on the Golden State Warriors after the Golden State Warriors ended up having, a unanimous MVP in Steph Curry and a Finals MVP in Andre Iguodala coming off of the bench, as well as Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, who are all NBA players as well as all-stars and a defensive player of the year. And Klay Thompson, before he was, known for missing or going 0 for 10 in an elimination game, he was a very feared sharpshooter and one of the best shooters that the NBA has ever seen. And unfortunately, LeBron was on the other end of the stick. He ended up scoring 52 points in the first game of the NBA Finals. It was a fantastic performance, but it was all for nothing because George Hill ended up missing the game-winning free throw. A lot of people really, they put the blame on J.R. Smith for running out the clock, but, I mean, Hill missed the free throw, which would have put them up by 1 point. So that probably would have helped them win the series and they wouldn't have gotten swept, but, it doesn't really matter whether you get swept or whether you don't get swept. If you lose the series, you still lose the series. So that's the most recent time that a team has gotten swept in the finals. And this happened, again, like I said, in 2018. Now, the next team that has gotten swept in the finals is, unfortunately, the 2007 finals, which was with the Cleveland Cavaliers, again with LeBron James, against the 2007 Spurs. Now, similar to LeBron against the Golden State Warriors on this slide right here, with Steph Curry and things of that nature, LeBron had to go up against the elite San Antonio Spurs team that had Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Robert Horry, all of these other NBA players that are just NBA greats. And not only that, this was LeBron's first ever finals appearance. Now, this was basically a Hall of Fame team that ended up making the playoffs every single year that Tim Duncan was on the roster and had a winning record in every single year. Now, this Spurs team, they were just elite in every single level, and with LeBron being the only really reliable option for the Cavs in his first ever finals appearance, he was basically overwhelmed. So he got swept. And this is obviously one of since this is his first finals appearance, his numbers weren't really all that great, but this wasn't his worst finals appearance. As you all know, that worst finals appearance was in 2011. But LeBron is on this list twice, and obviously being on this list twice isn't really a good thing, but you also have to remember he is on this list twice because in this scenario and in this scenario, he was the only real offensive talent on the team. And Eric Rodriguez is in the chat saying, let's go, because he loves the Spurs, and he loves, hold on, he also said something else in the chat. The 2018 sweep was personal. The year prior, the Cavs lost to the Warriors, but won one game. Draymond Green said he should have swept there. Yeah, that is true, but at the same time, their team, this Cavs team was a very different team than the 2017 team that was that LeBron had in the previous year. It was a completely different team. So it's not really the same thing, because it's this team was, in my opinion, significantly worse, but LeBron was just significantly better. And again, with this team, LeBron was, he was mediocre, but the team was just, it was just better. Now, the next team on this list and the next final series on this list is 2002 between the Lakers and the Nets. Now, not the Brooklyn Nets, but the New Jersey Nets. So this was unfortunately a sweep from the Lakers. Kobe Bryant and Shaq, this was their final championship together, and the three-peat that completed, their dynasty. And Kobe and Shaq, they destroyed the Nets. Basically, Shaq just like no one could guard Shaq on the Jersey Nets, and it was a pretty done series. The Lakers were the favorites going into the series, like from the jump, and Kobe, like no one could guard Kobe, no one could guard Shaq. It was a blowout in every single. It was just everyone knew that the Lakers were gonna win, and I mean Jason Kidd, all the other players there, they tried their best, but it was all for nothing, and that series was basically decided. And it wasn't nearly as most of the Lakers runs, they've been like they were really dominant. I mean, aside from their first finals appearance where it was like, really shaky, the next year in 2001, they only lost one game in the postseason, and that was in the finals. And it's like they swept the entire rest of the league, and the only other time that was done was when the Golden State Warriors played in 2017. So the Lakers, essentially, they did it first. So now Eric is still in the chat. Would Kobe have more rings than Jordan if they would have stayed together? They probably could. They most definitely could have. I mean, if they stayed together and they didn't, like, if Kobe didn't really have problems with not winning the Finals MVP and just letting Shaq do his thing, there would be a pretty good chance that they would win a little bit more championships, and I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up winning more than Michael Jordan. And maybe Kobe wouldn't get as many Finals MVPs, but he would outnumber in championships. So I mean, I don't know if you'd rather have some Finals MVPs or you would rather have more championships. Let me know what you guys think of that in the comments. But the next finals on this list is the 1995 Houston Rockets going up against the Orlando Magic. This was one of the more infamous finals runs because the Houston Rockets, they were the 6th seed in these playoffs, I believe, and they had to go. This was considered to be one of the most difficult roads to a championship in NBA playoff history. They had to go up against some Hall of Fame talent. They had to go up against the Jazz. They had to go up against the Suns. They had to go up against the Spurs. And then they had to go up against the Orlando Magic. And they ended up sweeping the Orlando Magic because, Hakeem, he ended up outplaying Shaquille O'Neal. This was a series where Shaq was on the verge of being getting his first championship, and the Magic were on the verge of getting their first ever championship in the franchise history, but they ended up getting swept by the Houston Rockets, which, it's like, I mean, Hakeem was basically on a mission, and this was a back-to-back win, like a back-to-back championship win for the Houston Rockets, and Hakeem Olajuwon ended up getting the Finals MVP for this series. Oh, I forgot to mention Finals MVPs for the previous series. So in the Warriors series, Kevin Durant got the Finals MVP, and in 2002, Shaq got the Finals MVP, and in 2007, I believe it was Tony Parker that ended up winning the Finals MVP of the series between the Cavs. Yeah, it was Tony Parker who ended up winning the Finals MVP. But that was those were the Finals MVPs for the series. And now we go on to the 1989 final series, which was between the Detroit Pistons and the Lakers with Magic Johnson. Now, this was when Magic Johnson made his return to the NBA. And, he made his return to the finals. He was really good, obviously. He was Magic Johnson. How could he not be a good player despite all the things that he does off the court and all the things that he did off the court? But aside from that, he ended up playing the Detroit Pistons in the NBA Finals, and this was the notorious bad boy Pistons. They are very aggressive. They're known for their aggressiveness on defense, and they're known for their aggressiveness and how they just, they back in my day and back in the olden days, they used to throw punches, and they used to, all this talk about how, the 80s were a lot tougher. This was the team that sort of accentuates that belief in the physical aspect of the game. And Joe Dumars was the Finals MVP of this series, and the Pistons in this in the playoff run and just in the playoffs in general, they were dominant. Like, they swept every single team in the postseason, and the only time that they lost in the postseason was against Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. So obviously, Michael Jordan being one of the great players that he is, it makes complete sense that he is that he was able to beat the Detroit Pistons. But the Pistons, they ended up getting the better of him in the in this time around. So, and then they ended up sweeping the Lakers. And next on the list, because we are running a little bit out of time, is the Lakers again getting swept by, this time by the 76ers in 1983. And the MVP of the Finals MVP of this series is Moses Malone, and he was also paired up with Julius Erving in the series, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in this series was also paired up with Magic Johnson, and unfortunately they ended up losing the series in a sweep, and despite being considered to be heavy favorites. Now, obviously, since they're the Lakers, they're most likely going to be the favorites almost every single time. And having Kareem, it makes sense that you are going to be the favorite. But Moses Malone, being one of the more underrated players in NBA history, he ended up sweeping Kareem in this series along with the help of Julius Erving. And now, in the next playoff series the next final series, that ended in a sweep was 1975. We're going way, way back in time, way back when Rick Barry was an NBA player, and it was between the Golden State Warriors and the Washington Bullets, and the Warriors, they ended up winning in the sweep, and the Finals MVP was Rick Barry. He ended up winning the Finals MVP, and he ended up scoring 36 points in Game 2 when the Warriors ended up winning. They obviously won every single game, and it was no competition from the Washington Bullets, and unfortunately, the Washington Bullets are still not done on this list. They are another team that they also ended up getting swept in 1971 before the 1975 NBA Finals. This time they lost to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the Milwaukee Bucks. This was the one championship that Kareem won with the Milwaukee Bucks, and they also had Oscar Robertson on the squad. This was just a fantastic team, and they were just too good. They were just way too good in this game. Wes Unseld also unfortunately, actually, Wes Unseld, he was Kareem, he ended up out playing Wes Unseld, and he ended up Wes Unseld, he played pretty well in this final series, but Kareem, he just outplayed him, and he ended up earning the Finals MVP. He averaged 27 points and he averaged 18 rebounds, and he was just insane in this postseason. And then the final team on this list, and the first ever team to sweep a team in the finals, was the Boston Celtics going up against the Minneapolis Lakers. Now, this was when Bill Russell was playing on the Celtics. Now, this was so long ago that the Finals MVP wasn't even created, so there was like there's no Finals MVP award to give out, and it's like, I feel like, the best player on the the Celtics team was just so dominant. You could really flip a coin on almost all of these players, and Bob Cousy, Bill Russell, you could flip a coin on those players, and either one of them could win the Finals MVP, and it's like either one of them could be labeled as the best player on that team, or either one of them could be labeled as the best player in that entire series. But, that's basically all the time that we have. And, it was a little bit of a longer segment than usual, but, that's basically what you get when you talk about all the teams that got swept. So thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. That is all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit.